The year is 2012. You just picked up a brand new copy of Animal Crossing New Leaf for your Nintendo 3DS. You boot it up and immediately get immersed into a town that you're the mayor of. You get to decide what gets built, when it gets built, and more. Less than 8 years later, Nintendo would release a new main series AC game in the form of New Horizons for the Nintendo Switch. Welcome to New Domains, an Animal Crossing documentary. Now, let's get into the history of the Animal Crossing series. The man that is most credited as the creator of Animal Crossing is Katsuya Eguchi. He was born on May 15, 1965 in Tokyo, but grew up in the Chiba prefecture. At 21, he moved from Chiba to Nintendo's headquarters in Kyoto. In a 2008 interview with the magazine Edge, Eguchi explained the origins of what would become Animal Crossing. He stated that he always came home late and that despite him and his family playing games, it never felt like they were playing together. As a result, he wanted to make a game where his family could see his progress, and when he came home, he could see what his children were doing. He also revealed that he was inspired by the loneliness he felt when he left the place he grew up in to arrive in Kyoto without any family member or friend. Due to this, he missed the times he used to spend with the people he loved. His desire to play and spend time with those he loved would be the foundation for the Animal Crossing series. The original concept of the first game was a multiplayer RPG in which players would have to work and communicate with each other to achieve common objectives. It was originally planned to release on the 64DD for its expanded memory and its internal clock, but due to the former's delays and cancellation, the project was ported to the Nintendo 64 with the controller pack add-on to store all of the data. Since the team could not utilize the added memory anymore, it meant that many of the game's elements had to be redesigned. The game used to have an anti-hero as protagonist who would work with a group of animals to progress through the game. The animals' sleep and wake cycle would be affected by a clock built into the game. The game would have also featured dungeons, bosses, and monsters, but all of this was scrapped, keeping only the communication aspect and the use of the clock. The development team changed the RPG-like goals for numerous activities that the player could do each and every day. Eventually, the game would be released under the name Dobutsu no Mori, or Animal Forest, for the Nintendo 64 on April 14, 2001, exclusively in Japan. The game revolved around a human character moving into a town inhabited by anthropomorphic animals. The gameplay was fairly simple. It operated with a calendar system, and each day, the player would decide how to spend each one of them. Some of the available activities were fishing, growing crops, customizing the house, bug catching. Not only that, depending on the day and the time, different events with the other inhabitants would play out, making every day a unique experience and inciting the player to keep coming back. Some of those events include Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas, Valentine's Day, Harvest Day, spring cleaning, and so on and so forth. Another feature of the game was the ability to emulate up to 7 NES games from the Animal Crossing cartridge, such as Punch-Out!, Excite-Bike, Donkey Kong, Balloon Fights, etc. The player would obtain these in the forms of gifts, treasure to be found, or in special giveaways organized by Nintendo. 9 months later, on December 14, 2001, an enhanced version of the game was released on the Nintendo GameCube as Dobutsu no Mori Plus. It was this version that was eventually localized and released to the rest of the world under the name Animal Crossing. Having made the jump onto Nintendo's newest home console, the game now made use of the GameCube's internal clock instead of the one inside of the cartridge. This change also meant that time in the game would still pass, even when the player was not playing. Other changes featured different designs for certain characters like Rossetti, Tom Nook, and Red. During the localization of Dobutsu no Mori Plus, more than simply translating, cultural references had to be changed, new items and holidays were added, and some events were also altered. Impressed by the localization efforts done by Nintendo of America's Treehouse team, Nintendo of Japan decided to retranslate the game in Japanese and release another version, this time called Dobutsu no Mori E+. That version featured compatibility with the Nintendo e-reader. These cards, notably, unlocked new in-game recordings and a number of mini-games playable on the Game Boy Advance. When scanned, The cards were also able to invite some villagers into the player's town. Other features that E Plus added were some new villagers, the ability to migrate to an E Plus town as long as there was a vacant house, unique town decorations, remixed tracks, new insects and fishes, new events and new ways to interact in the town, such as picking flowers or making announcements with the gyroid. Animal Crossing was a critical and financial success. The gameplay, amount of interactivity with the town, the hidden NES games, and its use of a calendar system were all praised as the game's strengths. However, some did note that the game's audio and graphics were not on par with other GameCube games. Nevertheless, the game was a smashing success and left people wanting more. The next entry in the series was first revealed at E3 2004 under the name Animal Crossing DS. The presentation teased that the game would utilize the Nintendo DS's touchscreen and have some multiplayer capabilities. In order to make localization easier, the team decided to avoid anything region-specific, therefore holidays such as Christmas, Halloween, and the Cherry Blossom Festival were absent in Wild World. This rule also affected the types of fishes and insects present in the game. The game was released November 23, 2005 in Japan, December 5 and 8 in North America and Australia respectively, and finally in Europe on March 31, 2006. Wild World brought with it a wide variety of new additions to the series. One of the biggest ones was the ability to visit other players' towns thanks to Nintendo's Wi-Fi connection. It was in fact the second Nintendo title to use the service after Mario Kart DS, and the third overall, trailing Tony Hawk's American Skateland. 3 new tools were added: the slingshot, which allowed you to shoot down balloons and other flying objects, the watering can for gardening, and a timer. Players could change their hats, facial accessories, and hairstyles. Customized patterns could now be used as wallpapers, carpets, clothes, and hats. 18 new characters, such as Celeste, Booster, and Harriet, to name a few. Brand new holidays like Yay Day and Lottie Day. New events, new ways to interact with the villagers, new fishes and insects, and much more. Once again, Wild World released to critical acclaim and financial success. Some criticized the game for not really expanding upon the previous entry, saying that the changes were not too game-changing. Many others complained about the removal of familiar holidays such as Christmas and Halloween. While the multiplayer aspect was greatly enjoyed, there were still some complaints mainly about some weird limitations, such as not being able to send mail to someone unless the player was visiting that person's village, having to use friend codes, the disappearance of the other villagers when visiting, and Western players not being able to connect with Japanese players. Despite all of this, Wild World was still a solid entry which had sold 11.75 million copies worldwide as of March 13, 2016. Here's a fun little fact. On January 26, 2006, a blank letter was sent to players connected to Nintendo's Wi-Fi connection. The letter contained an item called Red Tulips that was able to corrupt save data. If it was placed on the floor, it would create an invisible wall, making the spot it was placed useless. Nintendo later informed that the glitch was caused by an internal error, and on February 13th, they sent 1,000 bells and a notice apologizing for the mistake. Conception for the third entry in the series started during the production of Wild World. The project was projected to be released on the Wii and was named Revolution at the time. In 2006, Katsuya Eguchi confirmed that Revolution was still just a concept, as he was busy researching and developing the Nintendo Wii. Because of this, the Animal Crossing team had ideas to firmly implement the Wii remote onto this project. They also explored the use of Wii Connect 24, which would allow players to visit the town of other players even when they weren't playing. In early 2007, Nintendo unveiled their lineup of new games, and amongst that list was Dobutsu no Mori. Later that year, The Edge magazine reported that a credible source told them that the new Animal Crossing game was going to be a massively multiplayer online game. Eventually, Reggie Fils-Aimé unveiled Animal Crossing City Folk to the public at E3 2008. The game would release November 16th in the USA, 17th in Canada, 20th in Japan, and December 5th in Europe, all in 2008. While the core gameplay didn't suffer massive changes, the player now used the Wiimote and nunchuck to handle tools like the bug-catching net, the axe, and the shovel. One of City Folks' biggest additions was the city, a new area accessible by using Captain's Bus, where the player could find characters which were previously special visitors such as Red, Gracie, and Harriet. It also introduced Phineas and Kix to the series. Other features include the ability to look up to the sky, switch between inventory items using the D-pad, and the introduction of silver items. Region-specific holidays, which were absent in Wild World, were brought back. Another feature was We Speak, a microphone accessory that allowed players to talk with one another when visiting each other's towns. City Folks' reception was harsher than its predecessors. The main recurring argument is that City Folk felt too similar to the other two games. Reviewers and players alike complained that not much changed from Wild World to this entry, and as a result, the experience didn't feel so new. GameSpot even awarded it the title of Least Improved Sequel that year. So despite still selling more than 3 million copies as of May 2009, people were clamoring for change in the Animal Crossing series. The next game in the series was first revealed at E3 2010. Not much was shown there, and the non-playable demo showcasing the 3DS's 3D capabilities even had some people question if it was a real game or just a sort of tech demo. This would change with E3 2011, where a new trailer showing a lot more things, such as the ability to swim and dive, benches and beehives being present, players changing their shirts, shoes, and pants, and finally, the introduction of a yellow dog following the player around. The game's Western title, Animal Crossing New Leaf, was confirmed at the Nintendo World Report on April 21, 2012. The game would eventually be released November 8, 2012 in Japan, and June 9th and 14th, 2013 in North America and Europe. For the first time in the series, the player was not simply a villager, but was now actually the mayor of the town, aided by their secretary Isabel, a yellow dog. As such, the player had the responsibility to ensure prosperity in their town. This is achieved by using the two features of public works projects and ordinances. The first one has the player collect funds from the villagers and use that money to build bridges, statues, fountains, and poles. They can also create facilities like police stations and cafes. Ordinances are laws that the player can pass to sometimes make the villagers more wealthy, encourage them to plant more flowers, or to regulate the prices or the openings and closing hours of their shops. Only the first player to create a save file can be the mayor. Everyone else is simply a villager. This idea came about a year into the game's development and stemmed from the desire to give the player a bigger control over how their town develops. Ordinances were added so that the players can tune the game enough to accommodate their playstyle. New Leaf's biggest strength is in its customization. The game allows the player to change their shirts, pants, and shoes. New furniture can be customized and placed on walls to decorate the player's house. The player can also change the town layout at the start of the game instead of being assigned a random one. Tortimer Island is a new area available to explore by boat, after the player had paid off their first debt to Tom Nook. Up to 4 players can go together on this island chock full of exotic fruits, flowers, and bushes. There's also a beach where, as shown in the trailer in 2011, the player can swim and dive using a swimsuit and dive suit. Nintendo Network allows people from around the world to visit each other's village. There's also a Dream Suite feature that gives the ability to download dream versions of other towns to freely explore. Happy Home Showcase allows players to view the houses of players encountered through Street Pass and even order some of the furniture found there. A sewing machine is used to share custom designs with QR codes. 3DS Play Coins can be exchanged for special prizes, such as items referencing other Nintendo franchises. Smaller new additions include new insects, fruits, buildings, shops, villagers, fossils, new tools like the megaphone, etc. The development team also worked with Nintendo offices around the world to study different customs and added them into the different versions of the game. For example, New Year's Eve varies from region to region. In Japan, they eat New Year noodles. They drink sparkling cider in the English North American version, and eat a 12-grape plate at midnight in the Spanish language North American or European versions. Animal Crossing New Leaf was extremely well received. The sheer amount of new content and improvements made to the series was really appreciated by veterans. Yet the game was still accessible for newer players to get in on the fun. This was a total shift from the underwhelming City Folk. To go along with this positive reception, New Leaf became the first 3DS game to have sold 2 million copies, and it did so in only 2 months. A free update was released to add amiibo support and some new mini-games. A new retail version named Animal Crossing New Leaf, Welcome Amiibo, was released with the amiibo update already installed and a free amiibo card for the Japanese and European releases. By December 2019, all of the versions of the game added up to a total of 12.45 million copies sold worldwide, making this the highest selling entry in the franchise. Even after the tremendous success of New Leaf, fans of the series were only treated to 2 console spin-offs. The first one of those is Animal Crossing Happy Home Designer, which was released in 2015 for the Nintendo 3DS. The game was stripped down to focus solely on home designing. Working under Tom Nook, the player's role simply consists of designing homes for the villagers. The game uses amiibo cards that, when scanned, allows the character in the card to visit the houses the player has designed. The second one was Animal Crossing Amiibo Festival, which was released worldwide in November 2015 for the Nintendo Wii U. It's a virtual board game similar to Mario Party. Amiibos are necessary to play the game as they serve as each player's character and controller. Players can choose which one of the 12 months of the year to play, with each one holding different events. The winner is the player with the most happy points, which can be gained by stepping on pink tiles. Bells can also be obtained by stepping on green tiles or selling turnips. At the end of the game, bells are converted into happy points. Both of those games received middling to unfavorable reviews, mainly because both of them didn't have much going for them and were pretty bare bones. As they stripped the community aspect that the series is known for, these games didn't resonate with the core fan base, and even those who bought them found them really repetitive and ultimately uninspiring. After waiting 6 long years, Animal Crossing fans' patience would finally be rewarded at E3 2019 with the reveal of Animal Crossing New Horizons for the Nintendo Switch. The game was initially set to be released in 2019, but was delayed to March 20th, 2020. Nintendo of America President Doug Bowser cited that avoiding crunch was the main reason for the delay, in an effort to maintain a healthy work-life balance for the employees. As a result of the delay, Nintendo's stock market value posted a 3.5% loss, which translates to a loss of around $1 billion. The game will follow in New Leaf's footsteps and allow even greater freedom of customization. The player can now customize their character any way they want without anything being restricted to any gender. Skin color is also going to be customizable. The game will also feature a crafting system which will allow the player to turn materials into tools and furniture. Nook Miles are a new currency earned by completing certain tasks, which allow players to buy premium items. The weather will be based on the season of the northern or southern hemisphere depending on the player's real-world location. The game will feature autosave, and characters like Isabelle and Rossetti are meant to return in this entry. Unfortunately, there can only be one island per console. Nevertheless, the game looks quite promising. To conclude, Animal Crossing had never been put in the spotlight much compared to Nintendo's other franchises. However, it's managed to cultivate a loyal and dedicated following for a game series that simply asks the player to do seemingly mundane activities like fishing and catching bugs. After being left unimpressed by 2 uninspiring spin-offs, fans of the series rejoice at the upcoming release of New Horizons, which seems to build upon New Leaf to deliver a highly customizable and frankly, comfy experience. Thank you for checking out New Domains, an Animal Crossing documentary. Be sure to check out some of our other documentaries, subscribe, like this video, and also join our Discord. This has been Kriya with Game Domain.